The cursed orphan.
The wind howled through the tall palm trees as darkness swallowed the sun. It was midday, yet the skies turned as black as charcoal. The elders of Omofia gathered in the village square, their eyes turned skyward, lips trembling with chants to the gods. An eclipse, an ominous one, had come without warning. The spirits are angry, muttered one of the diviners. Women clutched their children. Drums stopped beating. Birds fell silent. In the eerie stillness, a cry pierced the air, not from the sky, but from the sacred stream of Oji Ogbo. Elder Dike, tall and wiry, followed the sound with weary steps. His wrapper flapped in the wind, and his staff struck the muddy path as he climbed down into the thickets beside the stream. The bushes opened like they were expecting him. And there, on the wet bank, lay an infant, naked, shivering, wrapped only in a faded blue cloth smeared with palm ash. His eyes were wide open, glowing unnaturally in the darkness. Around his tiny wrist was a braided charm of red and black beads, and his forehead bore a strange mark shaped like a crescent moon. A child born in darkness, Dike whispered, bending to lift the boy. As soon as his hands touched the infant, a flash of lightning split the sky, and the eclipse began to lift. Light returned, slowly, cautiously, as though unsure of its welcome. By the time Dike reached the village, the sun was shining again, but no one celebrated. "What is that?" a woman gasped when she saw the bundle in his arms. "A curse," another shouted. "That child was born in the hour of shadow. He carries death in his breath." Dike, wise but proud, said nothing. He only looked down at the child, who stared back at him with an unsettling calmness. "I will name him Obinna," he said at last. "Father's heart. If the gods wish to curse me for this, so be it." The villagers turned away, muttering. No one congratulated him. No one offered gifts. Obinna was raised in silence. He slept on a mat near Dike's goats. He ate what remained after others had fed. He learned early not to speak unless spoken to, and even then, his voice came soft and measured, like a distant drumbeat. Children threw stones at him when no adults were watching. They called him Ekwe Oju, the evil drum. Some said crops failed when he walked past. Others claimed to see shadows around him even on sunny days. But the boy never cried. At night, he would sit by the stream where he was found, the moon's reflection dancing on the water, and speak to the wind. "If I am cursed," he would whisper, "why does the stream sing to me? Why do the trees bow when I pass?" He didn't know the answer. Not yet. But the land did. The spirits did. And somewhere beyond the hills and beyond the palace gates, destiny stirred, waiting for the cursed orphan to rise. Umofia was a village of songs, firelight, but for Obinna, it was a place of silence. He grew like a weed between cracks in the wall, unwanted, unnoticed, yet stubbornly alive. Elder Dike never called him son, only boy. He was given chores the goats wouldn't do and sent to the bush before dawn to fetch firewood, even when the path was still soaked in dew and spirits danced in the mist. The children of Umofia ran barefooted, chasing tires and laughter. But when they saw Obinna, they scattered like birds before a storm. "He killed his mother in childbirth," one would whisper. "No, he has no mother. He was made from the darkness during the eclipse," another would reply. Sometimes, while sweeping the compound or cleaning Dike's compound latrine, Obinna would catch glimpses of boys his age wrestling in the sand or girls stringing beads under the mango tree. A smile would rise to his lips, but then he would remember himself and press it down like a forbidden dream. Yet, in his solitude, Obinna began to hear things others did not. At night, as the villagers slept, Obinna would walk to the edge of the forest where the stream flowed like a silver ribbon. There, the trees rustled without wind, and the water gurgled in words older than the village itself. Obinna, Obinna, come home. The first time he heard it, he ran. The second time, he stood still. The third, he answered. Who are you? He whispered, touching the charm around his wrist. Why do you call me? The stream shimmered, and from it rose a pale figure cloaked in mist, a woman with hair like falling rain and a voice like wind through dry leaves. You are not what they think. You are the beginning and the end of a buried truth. Then she vanished, leaving behind only ripples. Obinna stopped fearing the whispers. He began to listen. In the rustle of leaves, he heard warnings. In the hoot of owls, secrets. The bushes became his second home, and there, he felt something awaken, something strong, ancient, and cold like a snake waiting to strike. Then one evening, something strange happened at the market. Obinna, carrying a bundle of firewood, tripped near the herbalist's stall. The wood scattered, nearly toppling a tray of dried herbs. Angry voices rose. Clumsy child, his bad luck will ruin my cells. Why let him work free at all? Then came the voice of an old woman. Blind, bent, her face tattooed with fading Unsibidi symbols. She touched his hand gently. This one works with the shadow of greatness, she said. But he must first pass through fire and betrayal. The crowd went silent. Some crossed themselves, others spat and turned away. But Obinna's heart rest. Shadow of greatness, fire and betrayal. He didn't know what it meant, but that night, when he sat by the stream again, the water was still. No figure came, no whispers, only silence, as if the spirits themselves were holding their breaths. Something was coming. At the center of the market stood the sacred Iroko tree, massive, ancient, and wrapped in red cloth. No one sold or fought under its shade. That was the domain of the seers, the madmen, and the forgotten gods. Obinna often passed it, never daring to stop, until today. A cold breeze swept through the market square, lifting sand and silencing voices. Stalls rustled, calabashes rattled, and for a heartbeat, the market beast paused. Then, a croaky voice rang out from beneath the Iroko tree. You, cursed boy, come. Obinna froze. Under the Iroko sat a woman hunched like a broken drum. Her skin was a tapestry of scars, her eyes covered with a cloth made of cowrie shells. She leaned on a staff carved with snakes and birds, and a carved god hung from her neck, glowing faintly blue. The crowd parted like water before a boat. No one dared stop him. No one dared follow. Obinna approached slowly, heartbeat thudding like a war drum. The blind woman sniffed the air. You smell like river salt and ancient fire. I came only to trade firewood. Wise one, Obinna said, kneeling. She laughed, a sound like dry leaves crushed underfoot. You carry a mark no eye sees. Your shadow stretches into places even the gods fear to look. Your tongue is chained by lies not your own. But your day will come. She reached out and touched his forehead with her cold thumb. Beware the man who smiles with a golden tooth and wears the king's scent. He is the viper in your path. Obinna's eyes widened. Who? But before he could finish, she screamed, not in pain, but in power. A gust of wind roared through the market, scattering wares, slamming open baskets. The sky darkened momentarily as birds fled the trees. The woman collapsed. When Obinna opened his eyes, she was gone. No body, no trace, only the cowrie cloth lay beneath the Iroko tree, pulsing faintly. The crowd watched him in horror. He summoned a storm. He made the old one vanish. Demon. That day, Obinna did not sell a single stick of firewood. He ran from the market, heart pounding, the cloth of cowries clutched in his palm. Behind him, Umofia buzzed with fear and fresh hatred. He didn't know it then, but the market of eyes had seen what was buried, and the viper with the king's scent had already begun to move. The curse was no longer just a shadow. It was a flame waiting for the wind. The palace of Umofia was carved from sun-hardened clay and crowned with a roof of golden palm fronds. And on this day, one such secret threatened to unravel everything. It began at dawn, with a cry from the royal shrine. "The ivory crown is missing," shouted the palace chief priest, his white robe stained with palm oil from the ritual offerings he had just made. The king, Obi-Eze Amechi III, regal and aged like sacred wine, rose from his carved stool, his face pale beneath his coral beads. "What madness is this, Nwokedi?" he barked. The priest trembled. "The sacred crown of our founding father, stolen. The gods did not speak this morning. They are silent." The palace erupted. Drummers stopped. Dancers froze. Guards drew their spears. The ivory crown was not just a symbol. It was power itself, forged from the tusk of a white elephant that died on the night Umofia was founded. It was said to carry the breath of the gods. Without it, the king was just a man. Without it, the village was vulnerable to war, famine, and curses. A search began. Every hut, every shrine, even the sacred yamban was turned upside down. But the crown had vanished like smoke in Harmattan wind. That evening, the high priest performed the divination. Kola nuts cracked. As chants filled the palace square. All eyes turned to the priest as he bent over the signs. "The gods have spoken," he said at last. "The thief is not an outsider. He lives among us. He is cursed, born of shadow, raised by the stream." Gasps erupted like thunder. All thoughts turned to one name: Obinna. At that very moment, Obinna was near the sacred stream, washing the cowrie cloth he'd found under the Iroko tree, unaware that a nightmare galloped toward him. He felt the wind change. He turned, and saw palace guards thundering toward him on horseback, spears in hand, dust rising like ghosts behind them. He ran, fast, through the bush paths, beneath overhanging vines, his heart crashing like a talking drum. But he was no match for the horses. They caught him near the shrine of Eke, the trickster god, dragging him through thorn and sand, past shocked villagers and the frozen eyes of elders. In the palace square, they flung him to the ground like a sack of yam. "Obinna, cursed son of darkness," boomed the king, his voice trembling with rage and fear. "You have betrayed Umofia. You have stolen the crown of our fathers." Obinna lifted his bruised face, blood trickling from his lip. "I stole nothing," he said, voice hoarse. "I don't even know how to enter the palace gates." "You consort with spirits," barked one elder. "You vanished a seer. You work with storms and snakes," cried another. Obinna looked around. No one met his eyes, not even Elder Dike. The high priest stepped forward. By the law of the land, he must be cast into the forbidden bush. The crowd murmured, shaking. Even murderers were given burial. But the forbidden bush, it was death without return. No man who entered had ever been seen again. The king raised his staff. "So shall it be. The gods demand justice." Ropes were bound around Obinna's wrists. He was dragged through the night like a carcass, the villagers following in fearful silence. They reached the edge of the forbidden bush. The guards tossed him forward. His knees hit hard soil. The ropes were caught. He turned once, hoping someone, anyone, would speak for him. But Umofia had turned to stone. He stepped into the bush, and the shadows swallowed him whole. Obinna stepped into the darkness with the taste of betrayal still burning on his tongue. Strange cries echoed through the leaves, half human, half beast. The ground pulsed faintly under his bare feet, as though the earth itself were alive and watching. His throat ached, his wrists bled, but he moved forward. At first, it was only hunger and fear. The chirp of unseen insects, the rustle of leaves that moved without wind, the moan of trees that whispered his name. Obinna. He clutched the curry cloth tighter. It pulsed in his hand like a heartbeat. The first night, he slept beneath a crooked tree that bled sap like blood. Strange dreams came, visions of a woman with silver eyes, her hands glowing as she wove a crown of light. Find the truth buried in lies, she whispered, or perish in the name of it. By the second day, Obinna's hunger twisted into pain. His stomach growled like a beast. He chewed bitter leaves and sucked dew from the bark. Then came the shadow wolves. Their eyes glowed red in the night, and their growls echoed like war drums. Obinna ran, stumbled, climbed a tree whose bark burned like fire. They circled below, and just when he thought it was over, a voice rang through the forest. Enough! The wolves halted. From the darkness stepped a man cloaked in feathers and bones. His skin was the color of moonless night, and his face bore the marks of forgotten gods. You were the scent of the betrayed, the man said. I was cast out, Obinna replied, chest heaving. Framed, accused of stealing the ivory crown. The man smiled grimly. The truth is not in the palace. It is here, buried in the rot. He raised a hand, and the wolves disappeared into mist. I am Agogo, keeper of the lost ways. You walk the path of exile, but you are not alone. He led Obinna deeper into the forbidden bush, to a clearing lit by glowing fungi and surrounded by stone faces half swallowed by earth. There, Obinna met others, banished ones, falsely accused, forgotten warriors, lost seers. They had made a hidden village in the belly of the forest, where secrets and stories lived. From them, Obinna learned the truth. The ivory crown had not been stolen. It had been hidden, by a man with a golden tooth and the king's scent, just as the blind seer had said. That man was Chief Okolo, the king's trusted advisor. He had long desired the throne and had used dark magic to silence the gods and frame Obinna. Obinna's curse was never from birth, it was planted. A powerful charm sealed into his wristband, forged by palace priests long ago to blind the spirits around him and paint him in shadow. But now, that charm had awakened. You are more than a boy cast away, Agogo told him one night. You are the spirit of truth walking in flesh. You must return to Umofia, not in chains, but in fire. Obinna looked up at the moonlight filtering through the trees. The heart in his chest no longer wept, it burned. He would not return to beg. He would return to reveal. And this time, the gods would speak. 3 moons passed. Umofia slept in unease. The rain refused to fall. Yams sprouted rot. Children cried at night, claiming to see a faceless man watching from their windows. The shrine remained silent, and even the bravest warriors refused to enter the bush at dusk. The elders whispered, "We have offended the gods. The boy we cast out carried no guilt." But the king, proud and fearful, kept to his palace. And beside him, always smiling, was Chief Okolo. Until the morning of the 4th moon, a thick fog rolled into the village from the east, and out of it walked Obinna. He wore a robe stitched from bark and feathers, a staff carved with faces of truth in his right hand. Behind him came the exiled, Agogo the shadow walker, Amara the seer with blind eyes, Uday the silent warrior who never missed a strike. They came from the forbidden bush, no longer broken, but chosen. The market stilled. Traders dropped their calabashes. It is him, someone whispered. No, it cannot be. He works with the cursed dead. But Obinna did not stop at the market. He walked straight to the palace. The guards at the gate raised their spears, but their hands shook. I come not to fight, Obinna said, his voice echoing unnaturally through the air. I come to uncover the truth buried in your walls. The guards stepped aside. The palace courtyard filled with people, elders, warriors, priestesses, even the king himself emerged, eyes wide with disbelief. You, the king breathed. You should be dead. I should, Obinna answered. But truth does not die. It waits. Chief Okolo stepped forward, smiling wide. This is madness. He returns with sorcery and illusions. But he froze, because the cowrie cloth in Obinna's hand began to glow, lifting into the air. Wind circled the courtyard, the ground trembled, and the ivory crown, the real one, appeared, floating out of Obinna's satchel, untouched, untarnished. Gasps filled the air. I never stole your crown, Obinna said. Your advisor did. All eyes turned to Okolo. He laughed nervously. This is a trick. He's bewitched the crown, created a copy. Then let the gods decide, said the high priest, stepping forward, shaking. We shall call for the trial of the flame. A fire was lit in the palace square. The true crown, they believed, would not burn. A false one would melt like butter. Okolo refused. The people shouted. They demanded he place the crown into the fire. Cornered, sweating, he finally snatched it and hauled it into the flames himself, confident. But the crown began to sizzle, crack, smoke, and then it melted. The crowd erupted in horror. You betrayed the king. You cursed our land. Guards seized Okolo. He screamed as the golden tooth in his mouth shattered into dust. His eyes rolled back, and he collapsed, stripped of all power. The king turned to Obinna, shame darkening his face. I was blind. I cast out an innocent. Obinna did not kneel. He simply said, let justice speak louder than regret. The villagers cheered, not just for him, but for the truth, finally free. Obinna was offered a place among the king's advisors, but he refused. I do not seek power, he said, only peace, and a chance to rebuild what was stolen from me. He returned to the stream, to his old hut, but he was no longer alone. Those once exiled worked beside him. The land began to heal. The rains returned, and in Umofia, they began to tell the tale of Obinna the truth-bearer, the cursed orphan who was never cursed, only hidden from the light, until he returned with fire in his eyes and justice in his hands.